A recent question I got was, how do you print MIDI to an audio track? Which is a really great question. Sometimes you'll want to do that because you're getting error messages and your audio instrument is lagging your computer or causing errors in Pro Tools. So you can resolve that by printing your MIDI as an audio track and then disabling the plugin temporarily. Or you can do it like I brought up the song Major Tom that we did a few weeks ago, and we used Expand for a bass. We used channels 1, 2, and 3 of Expand. Channel 1 was the bass, channel 2 was this oboe part, channel 3 was the strings. So you'll look over here on the track, and here's the Expand. We have Expand 1, which is using the crash, and Expand 2, which is the bass on channel 1, the oboe on channel 2, and the strings on channel 3. So what if we want to EQ just the bass? The thing is, all of these are playing out of one channel, so one track. And the only way we could EQ them is to go here and add a EQ insert, but that would be EQing the oboe and the strings, which is not what we want to do. So let's print the bass as an audio track. They added a new feature in Pro Tools 12.3 called Commit. And so what that does is when you right-click on a track. Let me actually do it from here so we can see better. I'm going to close this. If I go to the bass track right here and I hold the control key on a Mac, right click on a PC, and I go to commit, it's going to create an audio track right below this on here, and which is right next to this right here. And the audio track would be a stereo audio track, but it would be all three parts, the bass and the oboe and the strings. And that's not what we want, right? We just want the bass. Because say we want to add a compressor or something to the bass, or we want to EQ the bass. So how we do that is just temporarily, we go to the oboes and the strings right here, and we mute them. Then we go to this track, and we right-click. We can also do it from the other screen, but I just want to make sure you guys can see this. And I click on Commit. And that's going to take everything on this track and commit it to its own audio track. A couple things come up and it asks you, hey, what do you want to do? You want to commit? I want to commit the selected tracks, which is just this one that I called bass and keys. I always check consolidate clip so it makes it all one big giant piece, which you probably want. And another thing that you'll want to check here is when you're done with the source tracks, click it to do nothing. So what it can do is, if you commit something, you can tell it to, hey, after you commit it, make that hide that track and make it inactive. But we haven't gotten into hiding tracks, and we haven't gotten into making inactive. But we want to keep it active because we're still using Expand to play the oboe and the strings. We just are not going to use it anymore to play the bass because we're committing the bass to an audio track. I'm hoping this is making sense. So let me just review one more time. I muted the oboe and the keys. So the only thing playing out of this track, this Expand track, right now is the bass. So when I go to commit, it's going to only commit the bass. So here we go, commit. I have consolidate clips, I have do nothing. And the other thing down here is offline, as we learned about bouncing. If offline is checked, you're not going to hear it. It's going to be a lot faster. If it's not checked, you'll hear the bass as it goes all the way down the song. But I'm going to choose offline because it's faster, and I say, okay, go. Okay, so now we have the bass. It's a little bit of a low waveform, but remember we have clip gain right here. So now we've got this bass. We don't need it here, right? But if we mute that, that's going to mute the Expand plugin, which is playing the oboe. There are a couple different solutions. There's a quick one, but not so elegant, is to highlight this whole track, and you can mute these notes the same way you can mute an audio region. You can just hit Command M, and you'll notice that they'll be grayed out. If I do the same thing to this audio region, watch this, Command M, it makes the audio region gray. It's very helpful sometimes if you don't want to hear something, but you don't want to get rid of it. So I'm going to Command Z, undo that, and I'm going to Command Z again to undo this one. Because really the best solution, because You want to keep this bass part, because what if you change the part, or you want to edit it, or you commit it and then you realize you want to change the arrangement? You want to go back to the bass, so you don't want to delete it. It's not so elegant leaving the MIDI notes on the same instrument track. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new track, Command-Shift-N, and we're going to make a MIDI track. And I say boom. I'm going to drag it up here, and I'm going to name it Bass MIDI. And I'm going to take all these MIDI notes, and I'm going to say cut, Command X, and I'm going to go to the next track below. I'm going to hit return to make sure I'm at the very beginning of the song. Make sure by up here, make sure you're at 1-1, and hit Command V, paste. I'm going to save. And then the other thing I'm going to do is make sure that MIDI track is playing expand channel 1, the second expand, the bass and the keys expand. Little note down here, you've got these little space here for notes and stuff. So you can say here, this is expand 1, and you can write yourself little notes. You know, stuff like recut this or something. You know, you can write, to make yourself little notes about the tracks you want to fix or things you want to change, or just notes you want to see. So now we've got this bass as its own MIDI track. We took it off of the instrument track, put it on its own MIDI track. Now we're going to mute it. So we got it, and now we're going to get it out of the way because we really don't need it. And we've named it. We know what it is. And this little circle right here is to hide. And now the track goes away. So now this thing down here, okay, it's called bass and keys commit, blub 1, whoa 1, blah, blah, blah. Remember our command to rename a region. Command-Shift-R. And I'm going to name it Bass Audio 1. We may as well. You never know. You may get a few. And then I'm going to name the track as well. Just Bass Audio 1. Why not? All right. So now we can listen to it. And there's the bass all by itself as its own audio track. So now what's cool is that we can go here and say, hey, bass, let's put a compressor on here. So we can go to dynamics, and we're going to get to compression, but we can go here and say, hey, and there's our compressor, and we can tweak it, and we're going to get to compression, but we can just, again, you don't need to know shit. Turn the knobs until it sounds good, and it's right. That's the way it works. We'll get to compression at some point. But now we want our oboe and our MIDI back, and our string MIDI backs. We're going to unmute that. And now we're going to go to the part where they come in, and let's listen. Ground control. Oh, it still cracks me up. Okay, so we've got the oboe. Yes, it comes in, and here comes the strings. This is ground control. And the bass is a little loud. You've really made the grade, and the papers want to... All right, so we have learned how to commit a MIDI instrument to audio. If it's multi-timbral, mute the other tracks and only have the part that you want to commit to audio playing. Hope that makes sense. Hope this was helpful.